Toulouse at the buzzer defeat a fiery Toulon in the closest game of the weekend. I don't know whether it's the English inside of me, but this was a really enjoyable game for me to watch. So many little elements in terms of bits around the breakdown, following through with clear outs that like created space for other people to go through and take space with ball in hand. I feel like the forwards had more ball in hand than any of the backs in general, comparing the two groups of players. Is it because I just enjoyed it because it was an arm wrestle, and us English are apparently known for loving an arm wrestle as our style of rugby play? I don't know, but I mean, there's so much to get into this, and it's a game that maybe I want to watch back for a second time. I can honestly say, compared to the games where we've had the high scores and everything else this weekend, I genuinely enjoyed this game more than the others. This felt like a classic like Champions Cup knockout fixture where everything's tight. It's all the little things in terms of like, can you turn the ball over maybe illegally with the referee not looking? Can you slow up a tackle to turn it into a maul for a turnover? It was a great performance. It was so much back and forth. Toulouse, obviously, they don't have Dupont anymore. That's old news. That's been for a while, right? And I think they're still getting used to how do they play without Dupont in the team. The scrum half who's in at the moment, Paul Grau, who I've watched obviously come in for Dupont. He's obviously not the same player. You can't put as much on the same shoulders that you would with Dupont on his shoulders. So it means that Toulouse need to find a different style to play. You know, a lot of their play with Dupont in that 9 shirt involves Dupont basically creating something out of nothing, being just somehow half a second quicker than any other scrum half in the world at getting to the ruck, which means that there's space on the outside. And I think the way that Toulouse, just in this game, decided to play differently was bludgeon ball. As I said, it was the same for both sides in terms of possession, but Toulouse especially were very comfortable with ball in hand with their forwards. And they made some mistakes, don't get me wrong. There were some knock-ons here that, you could probably put towards the fact that Dupont isn't in there. It was also bad weather in Toulon, the ball very slippery. But I think on the whole, they got the job done. I mean, and that's evident in the final score, right? Toulouse win. But all of the forwards that they have, they've like by Marchand, Malfu, I think, had an excellent game. I think Jack Willis had an uncharacteristically not massively involved game. I think he'd had some key moments, but he also had some mistakes that cost Toulouse at certain points. Kroos, very workmanlike. You barely saw the number in his shirt, which probably says that he had an excellent game just because he was in the midst of all of this arm wrestle in the mud. Roma, I thought, again, excellent game from him in terms of ball carrying. Generally, it was just this arm wrestle that it could have been a coin flip either way. And at the end, it was a scrum decision off of a mistake by Gabin Villiere, who I know hasn't been in favour with the French team because they've got Pennard and Biel Barré, who are great wingers. And Villiere is a personal favourite of mine. I love his running style, but he's still having to try and have a bit of a comeback to come to the French team in general. And it wasn't the first time that he had made a mistake with a knock-on at a key moment. That led to the scrum then led to the penalty, and Toulouse ended up winning the game. First of all, I've said about 3 or 4 different things. I'm just trying to get all of my thoughts and emotions and analysis out in this game all in one go. But that's what it was. Just Toulouse tried to just play bludgeon ball, and Toulon, to their credit, they sucked up that pressure for so long throughout the game. Defense, I think, was phenomenal for them. They were much more willing just to absorb the pressure. And then, play the possession game. I think they really tried to pick on on Malia, the Argentinian winger, through kicking. They saw that as a weakness, and it worked a few times. I think maybe Toulon were maybe in attack a bit too keen to kick out a ball out of their own hands, but you could see they were trying to pick on Malia because they knew that he wouldn't be as good under the high ball as Kinghorn or Ramos, and they saw that as a defensive point of weakness for Toulouse, which, doing your homework, I think that was something that they could utilize, and they did, and it it worked for a large portion of the game. But there were some really heroic performances by Toulon in their pack as well. Dave Ribbans, I think, superb game. Led from the front, line out was superb. And he had a very workman-like performance where, again, he was doing all the dirty stuff that you're not going to see unless you're looking out for it. I have to say as well, Gigashvili, I think he almost, if not did play the full 80 minutes, because he came on later on for like an injury, I believe. He was sensational, almost playing the full game, still doing turnovers at like the 70th minute. Baptiste Serin, I mean, he was excellent, really bossed the attack, took advantage of quick play when it was available to Toulon, which kind of leads me into talking about the way that this Toulon team attacks, with a complete mind meld between Serin and Garbisi, from what I can see. A lot of teams, they generally have a favour, like, do you play off of scrum half making the decisions most of the time, which is what Toulouse typically do with Dupont, and then Pneumatic does a great job of supporting Dupont. So you would say that decision-making in attack is like 80% scrum half and it's 20% fly half. And then there's other teams where the fly half is definitely calling the shots. I think probably with England, like Finn Smith, when he was at fly half, probably calling the shots 80% of the time, and Alex Mitchell 20% of the time. This connection between Serin and Garbisi, and it's a shame that Toulon lose, because I'd love watching this connection. They were like 50-50 in terms of decision making, and whichever decision each of the player went for, the other one was there making the decision, like backing them up and going for it. I'm thinking of specific moments where Serin decides to go with a quick tap, and Garbisi's right there to go and back him up and then shift the ball out wide once the ball gets passed out a few times. Generally, just so in sync, the two of them. And as I said, it's a shame that they couldn't get through to the next round. I run out of superlatives. What a game. And again, it's all about the little things in games like this, where it's not going to be about shipping it out wide as quickly as possible, trying to build phases. It's going to be more about like keeping the ball tight and then taking the opportunity out wide when it's available to you, because you have to suck the players in when it's a bit more muddy. It was a great game. It was superb. Do I think Toulouse deserved to win? Yeah, I think there was some refereeing decisions that were a bit out of whack, but I think it went both ways. I'm thinking specifically of like Kinghorn apparently getting penalised for a knock-on to a scrum to Toulon, which ultimately led to them getting 3 points from the scrum. The ball never touched the ground. It shouldn't have been a knock-on. But there were also decisions on the other side of the pitch. I think a couple of the times where Toulon, in the scrum, I think in particular, they were heavily penalised for something that wasn't 100% their fault. Again, scrum refereeing is always a roll of the dice, and I think a lot of people cover over the cracks over the fact that referees can't win at scrum time, but I think there definitely is right decisions to be made. And, if I was given the opportunity to go through and show you guys tape of scrums and who wins in what situations for what reasons, I'd be more than happy to. But, we all know what World Rugby's policy is in terms of going through clips and posting them online. So, yeah, I don't think the refereeing was great. And yeah, I think the commentators commented on the fact that, neither of these teams are going to get far in the competition because they didn't look like the world beaters of what we've seen for the rest of the weekend. And I have to be honest with you, I could not disagree more. I think it was a real dogged performances by both teams. Two teams that show that they can grind out good performances. a bad game is a game where it's knock on after knock on or penalty after penalty, and the game has no rhythm or rhyme. This was not that. It was more of it was more like two heavyweight boxers just like jabbing, 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 trying to land the haymaker and not quite getting in it. It was chess. It was rugby chess. It was, can we get in here? Can we get in there? There's an opportunity here. Let's go for that. Damn, closed out. Okay, look wide. Oh, damn, ball turned over. Get back in defense. It was such a to and fro. It was really great. And as I said, it's such a shame for the other rugby that we've watched during these quarterfinals, where you look at Leinster versus Glasgow, and it was so one-sided that you've got no complaints about Glasgow going home. You look at Munster versus Bordeaux. You've got no arguments about Munster going home. Castres versus Northampton. You've got no arguments about Castres going home. I feel like I'm kind of sad that Toulon are going home from this competition. With the amount of fight they showed, I think they could play anybody in this competition that's left and have a chance to beat them. But so do Toulouse. So it's not like we've lost a great team because of a team got lucky. Yeah, what about Jaminet as well? Off the tee, kicking it in those conditions from anywhere on the pitch. Like, he had to be within like 80 meters to like land some of those 3 points. There was something that was so old school about that as well. Getting penalties to get ahead rather than just going for the corner consistently. Like, scoreboard pressure. There was something that was so tense about it rather than just being like bang, done, try, boom. Like, it was so much more like, okay, there's 3 points here, 3 points here. Damn, they've missed a conversion there, so they're dropped, but then they're still 1 point behind. It was such a tense game. Like, this was a really good game. And anyone that watches this game and thinks, this is poor compared to what we've seen for the rest of the weekend, I'll be quite blunt. I don't think they know what they're talking about. Yeah, so it's a shame Toulon has to go home. They'll have to concentrate on the top 14 now, and Toulouse go through. And, it's going to be Toulouse-Bordeaux, which, if I'm honest with you, I think if Toulouse play this way against Bordeaux, I think they get crucified. Not because I think Bordeaux are that much better of a team than Toulon. It was more the fact that Toulouse, they made mistakes in attack that you wouldn't expect of them. I'm talking about consistent knock-ons, which we saw Munster do, and they were massively punished for it, right? I think if Toulouse are going to go into this game against Bordeaux, I think they don't need to rethink how they attack, but there needs to be some evaluation and game planning that changes little things in terms of what they do. I still think they can keep with this tactic of bludgeon ball, ball in hand with the forwards, and that hopefully opens up space on the outside. But I definitely think there needs to be a re-evaluation of how much possession do we really want to be doing? Do we really want to be playing within our own 22 consistently? Do we really want to be consistently just trying to like put the ball through the hands, or do we want to play it a bit more sensible? Do we want to trust our kickers to actually just get territory for us? I think that was part of the reason why Toulon sometimes got into areas of the field today where they had good attacking position. I think the clearances weren't so good for Toulouse from their own half, but if they can get a bit better at that, and they're playing Bordeaux, do they maybe think we trust the ball to get out of bounds and down the pitch, and we can compete with anybody with their packs? Because another thing about this Toulouse team is that the talent they have on the bench, the backs that they have are great, but some of the guys that they have on the bench that they can come on are, they're superb, like Muvaka, who was arguably one of the forwards of the tournament in the Six Nations. He came on at 56 minutes for Marchand, who's very, very good hooker. The two props that they have, the Netty and Merkler, I think they're, scrummaging specialists, but, they're pretty special. There's something about Anthony Jelinek, and I don't know if he would be this successful if he kind of started a game, but it feels like he's the perfect super sub. Like he comes on, and I feel like the moment that he's on the pitch, he's in like every highlight. He's competing for every high ball. He's in every breakdown. He's making every tackle. It feels like that because when he comes on fresh and he comes on as like as that super sub, he just the amount of effort that he puts in for the small amount of time that he's on the pitch. He's kind of like Toulouse's version of Jack Conan in that regard. Like his work rate when he gets onto the pitch is fantastic. And again, the backs, there are some great backs on there. Like, for example, Paul Costes, who I think had an excellent campaign last year for Toulouse. He can come off the bench, and he's such an attacking threat in that centre channel that they just have the depth to take it forward. So between Toulouse and Bordeaux, who do I want? I want Bordeaux to go through. I think they're a more exciting team at this point. Toulouse, I think, are playing a more of a brand of rugby that is a bit, I don't want to say boring, because I enjoy it, but it's less expansive. It's more simple Route 1 stuff. So seeing that go against Leinster could be, and again, I'm putting Leinster straight in the final. Sorry, Leinster fans, shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, we can talk about analysis in terms of breakdown for the game later on. But all in all, a well-deserved win for Toulouse. I think Toulon really put up a fight today, and they can go home. They can have their heads held high with the performance they put forward, because I think they really put their best foot forward. But yeah, a great final game for this quarterfinals season for the Champions Cup. And that's it. I think I'm done talking now for today and for this weekend. So yeah,